A warm welcome to the panel and to the members of the audience. Thank you for sticking around for this panel discussion. Appreciate it and hope you and your family are safe. Right? The wave 1 and wave 2 of the COVID pandemic has brought to the limelight the following area of concerns for all our organizations, namely cybersecurity and business continuity and availability planning. Right? This is the topic we will be discussing today with our esteemed panel of battle hardened practitioners. So, without any further delay, let us begin the discussion. My first question is to you, Manish. What is the importance, you know, of disaster recovery planning in business continuity, and how has the pandemic shaped and changed the same in the past one odd year? Over to you, Manish.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rajgopal. Thank you, panelists. The DR is one of the key component in any business continuity plan, because without DR, BC cannot be completed. Over the time of period, there are many technologies change and many change, come into the pictures. So previously there was a manual DR was there. Later on, it was converted into the automated. There are many technologies in DR. So there is like far DR, near DR. There are type of DR, which help us to uh, continue the business continuity plan. So DR is a must component for any business continuity. Without DR, PC cannot be completed.
Yes, Manish. And how have you seen the pandemic shape and change the same?
See, before the pandemic, people was used to work from the office itself, so it was easy to manage them. Security point of contents. You say the secure ID login, SSO logins, and all are there in a picture. So the environment was very secure and very controlled manner. But after the pandemic, people start work from home, so it was like a no control environment. Yes, we do use VPN, we do use secure encrypted uh, MPLS links. uh, those statistics are already there, but still we need to give more consideration, more security point need to be considered while people are working from the home. So
Understood.
the uh, technology has changed across the scenario where the people was working from the secure environment and now people are working from the non-secure environment. So the security point of view, we need to start zero trust.
Absolutely, Manish. I mean,
Antivirus
that
needs
is
to be
something,
updated.
yeah, that is something that we
Yeah.
have seen happen over the course of the year in wave one. Shouldn't surprise us for
Yes.
wave
Yes.
two. Over to you, Vasudevan,
Yes.
right? With the same question, what is the importance of disaster recovery planning in business continuity, and how have you seen the pandemic shape and change the same?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Rajgopal. Thank you, Exito. Hope I'm audible, right?
Perfect.
Yeah. See, DR, it's not a DR. So it's a DR is a subset of business continuity, any business continuity, right? So now it is very important for a business to have a proper kind of business continuity plan. And now what is happening nowadays is the data has been moved out, right? Now during the pandemic, so even we all are working from home and mostly working from anywhere kind of scenario, right? So earlier it was very easy for a security person to put controls when it comes to very perimeter centric kind of approach. Right now, right now, because of the pandemics, there are most of the organizations has took a lot of quick steps to move, right, and also to digitize certain things, right. Maybe if you talk about the communication areas, right. The thing is that now digital technology has been adopted to an extent that cloud has become an integral role, and SaaS technologies are being adopted. How to protect this kind of environment? It's a very big concern for any security practitioner. And on top of it, lot of automations has been done, right? Automation in terms of adoption of AI to ML to whatever extent that you talk about. So digitization has played a vital role, and that is why it becomes very difficult now to understand where exactly is the data which is getting moved, and what are the areas that you need to protect. So when it comes to a DR kind of scenario, you should exactly know what is the alternative arrangement that has been done. And also, if you consider, you talked about the ransomware attacks and all, right? So for any organization, this is a nightmare. So how to get rid of these kind of things, right? Ransomware attacks and all. So you have to have a proper kind of resiliency built in, more than the BCP DR kind of aspect. You should exactly know what needs to be done at the time of an attack, right? So you need to adopt towards a resiliency framework rather than we just talked about just kind of DR and automation mechanisms, right? So resiliency mechanism, mainly when I say resiliency, the main part is the people part of it, right? Human aspect of it. So you would,
Absolutely.
as a technology person, you would be able to implement a lot of automation controls, etc., etc. But what you will do when it comes to human aspect of it?
Absolutely, Vasudevan. Getting a human to do the same thing and again is always fraught with risks. Right?
Exactly,
Thank you.
exactly.
Thank you for that
That's the
perspective.
main point. Yeah.
You
Thank you.
mentioned about cybersecurity, specifically ransomware, etc. Right? So that brings me to the next question, and this one is directed to you, Aditya. What are the trends you see in leveraging AI in the area of cybersecurity these days?
Sure. Uh, you know, I've been to multiple conferences, and if you've been to any of these conferences back in like 2 years back or 3 years back, all of these vendors would come across and they say, okay, we've got AI in their AI capability in the software, we got advanced detection and all this thing. It was just a buzzword at that moment of time. Everybody used to use it it was more of a sales tactic, I would say. You would never know what goes behind the scene, what algorithm that they're using or anything. But I'm fortunate to say right now that things have moved beyond the buzzword or the sales tactic now. We're seeing quite a lot of improvement in terms of how AI is actually being used, not only from the perspective of safeguarding our digital enterprise, but also the adversaries are also using this similar kind of tactics, using AI to attack the threat landscape that today we are having. Obviously, from the perspective of AI, we are seeing quite a lot of things. I mean, one big thing, I handle a big SOC out of India, and one of the biggest challenge that we have today is alert fatigue, right? These SOC people, they keep on seeing so many alerts. There's so much of noise that keeps on, no matter how much tuning you do. So there's always an alert fatigue because it's a human element, right? And what happens is that when you introduce AI capability, the threat hunting becomes pretty much relevant. I mean, it becomes very easy because the amount of data ingestion AI can take and it can process, particularly if I can give you an example using NLP. Now, with the NLP, you can parse quite a lot of data. It could be any semantic, any language, and bring together everything into one. Whether it's going digging deep into a dark web using a threat intelligence platform and taking those data and harvesting the data and making sure that you have a calculated risk for the organization. So from that perspective, that has really helped, and we are seeing a lot of progress there from the AI perspective. Another one that I'm seeing is from the malware perspective. A lot of many times we do a malware analysis, reverse engineering, and we see that the adversaries now, the attackers, they're also using AI to do quite a lot of attacks. So one example I would give you is that one of this malware that I was working is pretty new. It's fully undetectable malware. The way it works is that it hibernates for some time. When it goes into your system and when the payload is activated, it hibernates. right? And then it will get activated after like 15 days or 20 days or 30 or whatever the time period the attacker has set. Now, the biggest thing what it does, it has this AI embedded in that. If it detects that the keyboard stroke or the typing speed of the person, I mean, it just keeps monitoring the typing speed. If it detects that the typing speed is not equivalent to the user that's using, it's maybe an admin is trying to figure out what this typing speed is. If they have a higher typing speed, so it's going to stop, it's going to hibernate, or maybe it's going to self-delete. So you can understand that it's a game, it's a cat and mouse game right now. Not only from the malware perspective, we are having more amount of detection right now because of the way malwares have been designed. We have better accuracy using this machine learning algorithm. UEBA is one of the other things, right? The insider threat, we are seeing multiple use cases right now where people are logging in from different places and all. So UEBA has become a major thing, and that's really AI is really helping. And apart from that,
absolutely, Aditya. In fact, I came across one article which said that there are malwares that detect if a person is using MFA. If they are using MFA, then you're safe. Otherwise, it figures out and starts sending specific phishing mail. Indeed, that's amazing. The same question to you, Srinivas sir. Yeah. What are the trends that you see in leveraging AI in cybersecurity in your domain?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Vasudevan, and thanks to Exito for the opportunity given. I hope all of you are safe with your families. So when Mr. the earlier speaker was talking, the point has come into my mind is that you might have heard about cybercrime as service, CCAS. So this AI helped the CCAS to be, let's take in a later way. So this artificial intelligence not only helping us in identifying the irregularities in the network by analyzing the user actions, the same way it is supporting and helping the hackers and also cyber criminals to increase the threats, particularly in this pandemic time. Because as rightly mentioned by the earlier speakers, now the most of the work is happening through work from home. So where the endpoints are not having proper security, and we may not be able to control the security at the endpoints. So there, it helps us in analyzing the patterns, behavior of the end users, and also the criminals or hackers who are trying to penetrate into our systems. So mostly the modern firewalls which are coming have been built with the machine learning technology and artificial intelligence, so that these usual patterns can be observed and removed if it is required. But AI certainly will help in understanding the new type of attacks those are coming, new type of patterns coming, and prevention can be done in those areas. And also using this natural language processing feature in artificial intelligence, security professionals can detect the origin of a cyber attack. The natural language processing also helps in analyzing the vulnerabilities. So scanning of internet data and using the predictive analytics will identify the malicious threats beforehand. A higher security of conditional access and authentication. So these are the areas where artificial intelligence is supporting the cybersecurity areas.
Indeed, Srinivas. I personally believe that there are two pandemics going on. One is the COVID one, and the other one is the ransomware pandemic that is currently there. In fact, I was very surprised all the way back in November 2020. I was browsing a website and they had a series called Ransomware This Week. Okay, it is honestly that bad. But industry is also not ignoring it, right? And so my next question on that area is to you, Vasudevan, right? Please share your perspective on how organizations contain threat fast using frameworks like SOAR and other authorization frameworks. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, so I touched upon so I would say that there are only two type of organizations, right? One is organization was already undergone a cyber attack. Second is were on the waiting list, right? So anyway, you are there, right? So today or tomorrow you would be attacked. So the important thing is the time, right? So how fast you could respond again to the area of resiliency and all. So that's very important. It's not only detection, but also the response. So When it comes to detection, there was a lot of challenges that Aditya also trying to highlight, that there are a lot of false positives which is coming in. So you have to again distinguish from the false positives, and there should be sufficient mechanisms in terms of maybe if you talk about AI, ML, or whatever, right? So those things are getting matured, right? I'm not saying that it's 100% matured, but it is in progress. Kind of vendors are fine tuning things, right? And somehow we would be able to identify some sort of IOC, and you'll get some sort of indications. So once you get that indication, how will you orchestrate, right? How fast you would be able to contain that? That is a real question. That is where the game is, right? So so this sort kind of technologies are actually a blessing to just start doing that. In the sense, it's just a budding stage technology that it's not that evolved, but it is getting evolved. So if you start practicing, or if you start implementing these kind of controls, that will greatly enhance the productivity of your security team. So even if it is not 100% assurance that is giving, but it will greatly enhance the productivity, and you would be able to act fast. And there are a lot of things that you could orchestrate and keep it ready. So earlier in those days, pre-pandemic days, it was only the firewall, right? If you put a policy in the perimeter firewall, you're done, right? So most problematic thing is, and it may impact your business application also, but it's okay. But here now that control is not there, right? Because you really don't know where exactly your data, right? So your data is spread across all the network. Your data is spread across the cloud, right? How will you do it? So there are a lot of manpower and skill set which is required to contain that. So
Absolutely, Vasudevan.
yeah, so just one more point is automation, right? So the automation and the frameworks. So it is not only SOAR, it's an automation coupled with the kind of authentication frameworks will actually give you kind of orchestration that you need, and you would be able to implement policies as fast as your technical security team is, right? So that's the aspect that I want to highlight here. Over to you.
Absolutely, Vasudevan. In fact, what you said made me remind of two things. What Aditya had mentioned as a cat and mouse game that is there, and secondly, the previous speaker who was there, who mentioned about data sprawl, wherein as an organization you don't know where your data is and what sensitivity it is at any point of time. So that brings in, the other part of the question which I had asked with respect to authorization frameworks and so, especially in the areas like zero trust networks, etc. Over to you, Srinivas, to hear your views on that.
Yeah. So particularly these kind of technologies, like technologies, these technologies support the security teams and enhances the ability to respond to security incidents very significantly, because those sort kind of technologies allows a fast and thorough analysis of big amounts of data. Thus, you can set a sound baseline with the help of comprehensive data and easily detect any suspicious behavior, even though the traffic of your network is pretty heavy. Moreover, these technologies offer unprecedented incident response solutions with the help of insights provided by its considerable data processing capabilities. So SOAR provides higher quality intelligence since it gathers information from a wide area of sources: SIEM, firewalls, logs, UVA, intrusion detection tools, like this. So I have a cybersecurity operations center which is catering to all the cooperative banks in the state of Telangana. Here we are implementing this technology, and our team which is managing this CISO is being benefited by these tools. So certainly this SOAR technology is a very good one, which is integrating and processing huge volumes of data points, and it is giving our security to make informed decisions very faster and better.
Thank you, Srinivas. Yeah. So that comes to the moot point of the discussion, and that question is to you, Aditya. What are the new trends in cyber threat, and how are they impacting organizations' business continuity plans?
Yeah. So I think 2017 was the time when WannaCry came in. I mean, that was the first ransomware incident that came into limelight. Of course, ransomware was there before that, but we saw that being a limelight, and that was one of the biggest hack from WannaCry. It impacted quite a lot. One of the things that we are seeing with respect to as one of the speakers was talking about with respect to ransomware is that if you see the common thing between all of the ransomware, whether it's Ryuk or whether it's ReEvil or whether it's Babook or any of these threat actors or DarkSide or whichever you are talking about, they all use some level of tools which are commonly accessible. I think unfortunately we had a leak back in 2020 with Cobalt Strike that's used by red teamers to do penetration testing. A lot of automation is there. So the source code leak has given quite a, I mean, it's a big challenge for security guys like us, because now the attackers, they have these kind of tools in hand, and most of these ransomware operators also, they use Cobalt Strike to go in and use it as an accessory to attack, to deploy the payloads and beacons, as we call it. So the issue that I'm seeing from the perspective of the threat landscape is that more and more operators we are seeing it from the perspective of ransomware. This is going to continue, the ransomware as a service. This is a lucrative business. I think one of the report I was reading a few days back, it said that ransomware as a service is a most profitable startup ever. So that's kind of funny. I don't know how things are going to happen right now after this Colonial Pipeline hack, because I think there's a very strong stance against ransomware. A lot of these operators are moving back from the dark webs. If you visit dark webs, and you'll see that they're not actually operating. They're saying that we do not advertise ransomware as a service. They're hiding right now. But that's a big challenge. But net, if you look from the perspective of what is the primary trigger or the criteria for all this ransomware, is that the initial access. That's the primary thing. And initial access being, phishing. I mean, there are very less number of people who utilize the 0-day. There were examples from the Microsoft Exchange and SolarWinds, yes. But then most of the time, most of the organizations get attacked because of phishing emails that come through, and I think employee awareness is very important. It's still not that matured enough, I would say. We still need to do quite a lot in the employee awareness.
Indeed, Aditya, with respect to comes under social engineering attacks, right?
Yeah.
Whatever you do is never enough. With that, I hand over to you, Vasudevan. What are the trends in cybersecurity, and how are they impacting organizations' business continuity plans?
As Srinivasa and Aditya rightly said, right? So now, most important trend that I could see is again on the ransomware itself, right? But I would like to add one more aspect to it is, it's kind of a double ransom kind of thing is increasing. So it's ransomware groups are mostly focusing on data exploitation rather than encrypting it, right? So they understood that the encryption anyway you have a copy, offline copy available. So if the organization can survive, so all the efforts put by these hackers are in vain, right? In the sense, after 6 months, they will realize that okay, the organization is not responding to our ransom call, right? So what they're doing right now is a dangerous trend, which is like they are slowly extracting the data, exploiting the data, and keeping it. And I heard that some of the organizations are still waiting for the data protection law to be implemented in India, so that they can expose most of the organizations and demand ransom. So this is a very dangerous trend which is happening in the market. So this will only reveal when the government comes out with this law and implement it. So you need to be very careful while detection and response, in the sense while detecting this. So this can be undetected for many months, right? So that's a scary situation. And that's why the kind of automation and the kind of AI usage should be increased. Whatever tool is available in the market, you have to adopt that tool. So
absolutely, Vasudevan. In fact, you raised a very relevant point. For a lot of companies, their data might be the oil on which they survive, and that coming into public domain might net lead to them or many copycats
Yes, they will be out of
and
business.
provide the same service. They will be out of business. Absolutely. Now coming to the hardcore practitioner question, which I direct to Manish. Right, Manish, what are the most common mistakes in business continuity plans made by organizations? Over to you, Manish.
Yeah, thank you. Am I audible? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So there are few mistake which was made by many people during the planning this business continuity plan. The few of are is failing to plan for employee. They are not planning employee. During the making this. The second mistake, the second one I would like to point out here is using only word but not actions. Means they do the documentation, they make the processes, but they never try to do the plan of execution. They never do the practicing for the same walk through kind of a thing. The third which I would like to mention here is not showing your employee how the plan will work. That means they are not showing the demo, they are not making any drill dry run kind of a thing. Yes, they are expert into making plans and they are expert into making procedure, everything, but they never do the dry run with the employee. So this is one of the major curse to making failure, or people are making mistake over here. There are also few would I like to point out here is forgetting to check on people after the incidents. When the incidents happen, everybody was in rush. Everybody was trying to do the things in hurry. But once the incidents was over, then after there was no action. So there was a two kind of a things: pre-plan, pre-actions and post-actions. So post-action was always missing by the peoples. And the fifth one is, the fifth I would like to mention here is a reacting rather than communicating. People are always reacting rather communicating. They start expressing, oh, that's happened, oh my god, this happened, but they never start communicating. The communication is one of the biggest role playing in a BC, or when the incidences happen. You have to communicate very fast, you have to intimate people, you have to start acting proactively rather reacting or getting shocked. So those are the few mistakes people making while BC or rollout is happening. That is what I feel.
Absolutely, Manish. And in fact, during pandemic, planning for people, tends to take a different level of significance, because the procedures for BCP might not be known to certain entities or just known to one entity, and unfortunately, he or she is currently down on account of the pandemic. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The people planning is a major role
Absolutely,
playing after the pandemic. We also feel that.
Yeah. And the same question to the other hardcore practitioner, Srinivas sir. What are the most common
Yeah.
mistakes in
As he rightly
business continuity
mentioned.
plans made by organizations?
Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, okay. Then,
Loud and clear.
as he rightly mentioned earlier, the first one is BCP. Normally, people feels that it is the responsibility of the IT department, which is a misconception among all the people. So we have to make all the departments appreciated this BCP. So first we have to involve the premises department or the services department, which provides the service premises, location, other things. And then the most importantly, the human resources department and IT and the premises department. These together they have to work and they have to appreciate the BCP prepared. So all the people should understand importance of BCP and what is their role in the BCP. Then most important thing is the risk assessment. So what is the risk? If our operations goes down immediately, how to restore? So what is the risk? So this risk assessment has to happen. Based on the risk assessment, we have to create the BCP. And again, because BCP always what happens is you cannot replicate 100% production all the times. So because it might be costly or it might not be required also. Depending on the business criticality, what kind of BCP that we need to plan. So another thing is the people normally forget in planning the BCP is the last communication channels. The communication channels might have lost at that time. So that particular point of time during the pandemic situation, there might be cyclones, there might be some other kind of things where we need to implement the BCP. That time, you may not be having your cell phone, you might not be having your email facilities and all these things. So during those times, how to react, how people have to react, how the IT teams have to react. This has to be practiced and also it has to be incorporated in the planning. So last communication channels also we need to see. And BCP is not a step-by-step activity. We need to keep that in our mind. Step by step, after this is not the planning. So everyone in the team, BCP team, should be aware of all the processes, and simultaneously most of the processes have to be done. So that is one of the major things that we need to see. And there should not be any people dependency. It means person dependency should not be there. Whoever is the person, that person should be able to handle that particular assignment that is there in the BCP. See, employees, they might be getting transfers, they might be promoted, they might be going to other seats. But whoever is coming there, they should have BCP also in their job chart on a daily basis, and they should know. So that is one area what we have to see.
Absolutely, so, Srinivas. Absolutely. Thank you for that. In fact, there was one more point, and I thought I'll mention that. Point number 3 mentioned by Manish was the fact that a lot of times, BCP DR plans are only on paper. There is the other extreme where people don't plan properly. They fail forward, but they don't know how to fail back.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
To the original. Thank you, everybody. It has indeed been an in-depth and engrossing discussion with you all. Appreciate your time. Once again, appreciate the audience time in spending, giving us your ear to hear us. With that, I hand over to Anisha. Over to you, Anisha.
Thank you, Rajgopal. Thank you, all the panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.